What's the difference between a superhero and a recurring cosmic event? Usually it's about one bad day. But for one woman, that line between saving the world and consuming it isn't drawn in the sand, it's drawn in the stars. We often think about her as the heart of the X-Men, the girl next door who became a goddess, but the truth is much darker. What happens when the most empathetic soul in the universe is forced to feel everything all at once? Today we're stepping into the fire to talk about the woman who died for our sins only to rise and rewrite them. Today we're talking about Jean Grey. Welcome back to another episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and I'm really hyped about this deep dive. If you grew up like me watching the X-Men the Animated Series on Saturday mornings with a bowl of Captain Crunch, you probably have a very specific image of Jean Grey. You might remember her shouting, "Scott!" and then, fainting a lot. Well, let me tell you, the comic book reality is vastly different. Jean isn't the damsel. She is the danger. She is the tuning fork for the entire mutant mythos. When she gets struck by trauma, she resonates at a frequency that literally shatters reality. And to understand that resonance, you have to go back, way back, before the Phoenix, before the X-Men, before the yellow spandex. We have to talk about a 10-year-old girl playing with her best friend, Annie Richardson. This is the origin spark that redefines everything. Officially, Jean is a mutant telepath. But in an emotional continuity, specifically in the legendary Bizarre Adventures number 27, we learn that her powers didn't trigger because of puberty, like most mutants. They triggered because of death. Jean was playing with Annie when Annie was hit by a car. In that split second of terror, Jean's mind didn't just scream for help, it reached out and bridged the gap. She linked her consciousness to Annie's. She felt her best friend die. She felt the life slide out of her. Imagine being a 10-year-old and dragging your own soul into the afterlife and back. It broke her. It left her catatonic. This is crucial because it establishes that Jean's power isn't just reading minds, it's a weaponized empathy. She is a raw nerve in the world full of sharp edges. And this brings us to Professor Xavier. Now, we talked about Charles in the previous episodes, like when we covered Danny Moonstar in episode 19, and how he helps young mutants conquer fear. But with Jean, it was different. He didn't just teach her, he jailed her. Realizing her telepathy was too potent for a traumatized child, Xavier placed a massive psychic block on her mind. He basically walled off part of her brain. Think about that. Jean grew up with a do not enter sign in her own head. She became the good soldier, the responsible Marvel girl of the Silver Age, largely because she was terrified of what was behind that door. It's very Stranger Things, right? Like Eleven being conditioned to control the monster within. But you know what they say about repression. When you dam a river of infinite energy, the breach isn't a leak, it's a flood. The flood arrived in X-Men number 100, the famous shuttle crash. The team is in space, radiation is flooding the cockpit, and they're all going to die. Jean realizes that she is the only one who can pilot them home by shielding herself with her telekinesis. She knows it will kill her. And this is the moment. As her body begins to disintegrate from the radiation poisoning, she screams out, not in fear, but in defiance. And the universe answers. Enter the Phoenix Force. Now, whether you subscribe to the retcon that the Phoenix replaced her or the classic idea that she became it, the emotional beat is really the same. She rises from the waters of Jamaica Bay, not as Marvel Girl, but as something new. She tells the X-Men, "No longer am I a woman you knew. I am the fire and life incarnate. Now and forever, I am the Phoenix." This is an act of self-naming. It's her rejecting Xavier's blocks. It's her rejecting the fear of Annie Richardson's death. For a while, she was perfect. She healed the Imcon Crystal, she saved the universe, but absolute power is a very heavy drug. And this leads to the tragedy of Dark Phoenix. There's also a misconception there that Jean just went crazy because women with power are unstable. That's both lazy writing and lazy reading. The Dark Phoenix Saga is actually a story about violation. Enter Mastermind and the Hellfire Club. They spent months, along with the White Queen, Emma Frost, gaslighting her, projecting illusions, directing her psyche to turn into the Black Queen. They stripped away her moral compass. They took that most empathetic woman in the world and turned her inside out. When she finally broke free, she didn't just get mad. She became the Dark Phoenix. And that hunger led to the Dabari system. She consumed a star, extinguishing 5 billion lives. It's the moral event horizon. It's the moment she went from a hero to cosmic horror. But, and this is why we love her, in the end, on the blue area of the moon, Jean clawed her way back. Realizing she couldn't control the hunger, she triggered a Kree laser cannon and disintegrated herself. She chose to die as a human rather than live as a monster. It was the ultimate act of agency. But the story doesn't end with death. In comics, it seldomly ever does. And this is where the echo gets really loud and frankly, really sad. We have to talk about Madelyne Pryor. If Jean is the sound, Madelyne is the distorted echo. After Jean died, Scott Summers met a pilot named Madelyne, who looked exactly like her. He married her. They had a baby, Nathan, who becomes Cable, which we'll definitely cover in the future. It seemed like a happy ending, but when Jean was resurrected years later in X Factor, Scott left Madelyne. Marvel then, of course, retconned Madelyne into being a clone created by Mr. Sinister. They turned her into the Goblin Queen to justify Scott's abandonment. It's a gothic horror story. Madelyne is the discarded woman. Jean's return literally erased Madelyne's right to exist. It's a dark reminder that Jean's legacy isn't just the sunshine and resurrection. It has a body count of people who got burned just for standing too close to the fire. So let's fast forward a bit and catch you up on the last 2 decades of Jean's life, because she has evolved far beyond that fainting damsel of distress in the 90s cartoon. After her return and the whole Inferno mess with Madelyne, Jean spent the 90s as a mature backbone of the team, finally marrying Scott. But the real evolution kicked in during the early 2000s with Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. This is where Jean stops being afraid of the Phoenix and starts understanding it. Morrison positioned that Jean wasn't a host, she was an inevitable avatar of evolution. She dies again, this becomes a habit, but this time she ascends to the White Hot Room to become a White Phoenix of the Crown. Think of it as leveling up to a god status of the universe. She spends years literally stitching reality together from a higher plane of existence. But you can't keep a good mutant off the board forever. She eventually returns to the land of the living in the late 2010s, and this brings us to one of my favorite runs, which is X-Men Red in 2018. If you read one modern Jean Grey book, make it this one. The world is falling apart, as usual, and the villain is Cassandra Nova, which is Professor X's evil twin sister, basically pure hatred in a trench coat. We'll cover her in the future as well. Nova tries to destroy mutant kind, not with giant robots, but with fake news and misinformation. She weaponizes hate. And Jean? Jean doesn't punch her. Jean builds a team to fight a war of ideas. In the climax, Jean pulls the ultimate power move and forces Cassandra Nova to feel, well, empathy. She dumps the collective pain of every life Cassandra ever ruined directly into her brain. She weaponizes it. The same trauma from when she was 10 years old and Annie Richardson died is now imparted on her. She uses it to cure a psychopath. It is a perfect circle. The wound became the weapon. From there, we move on to the height of mutant kind, the Krakoan era. Jean sat on the Quiet Council, helped terraform Mars, and dealt with complexities of nation building. But recently, in the fall of X and the new From the Ashes era in 2024 and 2025, Jean has gone solo again. She is currently reclaiming the name Phoenix, traveling the stars not as a destroyer, but as a cosmic firefighter, saving planets and dealing with threats that are too big for anyone else. She has finally accepted that the fire isn't something that happens to her, it is her. She's no longer a tuning fork waiting to be struck, she is the music. It's a wild ride, from suburban tragedy to cosmic divinity, but looking at her history, I'll leave you with this question. We often say Jean Grey is the victim of the Phoenix Force, but given that she is the only being in history to truly control it, is it possible that the Phoenix didn't corrupt Jean, but that Jean, with all of her repressed human trauma, is actually the one who corrupted the Phoenix? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on the nature of that bond. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. If you enjoyed the deep dive into the fire and life of Jean Grey, make sure you subscribe and follow so you don't miss any of our episodes. Leaving a like and a 5-star review really helps the podcast grow and helps others find us. And hey, drop a comment. Who's your favorite Omega level mutant? Do you think Cyclops was right to leave Madelyne? Let's argue about it. And for more content, including 4 articles, reader guides on Jean Grey, and visual infographics, make sure you check out the link below. Until next time, true believers, make mine, Marvel.